America, this is your lucky day. The day the British invade again. However, this British invasion plans to be much funnier than any musicians or revolutions that have been in the past. This is the making of Little Britain, USA.
With this series, I think we had to assume that most of the audience haven't seen Little Britain before.
I think it was good for them to know that they were playing to a new audience who they hadn't already won over yet. So you have to bring like the A game. This character has to be as sharp and as funny as it ever was, because you only get that first impression one time.
I think we spent longer writing this series than we have the other series because we had a lot of questions to answer. You know, there were lots of different ways we could have done this show.
Testing.
Yeah.
Just like,
is
this gonna work?
Are you buying this?
Is this gonna work?
The show is it's still Little Britain, but it's not season 4 of Little Britain on the BBC. It's season 1 of a new show called Little Britain USA.
In Britain, what you'd find funny about Americans is quite different to what Americans would probably find funny about Americans.
Their comedy, I think, is really universal. I mean, it just hits on every cylinder.
It's just so dry humor and not vulgar, but a little to that point on certain things.
Maybe it just pushes the envelope a little bit. Ultimately, funny's funny.
You mean you're...
Lesbians. Yeah.
We went on a sort of a trip to a sort of research trip because we hadn't seen that much of America outside of the obvious places like New York and Los Angeles.
All the way from Branson, where David...
Branson, Missouri.
We flew to Chicago.
I took him to a Chicago Cubs game.
We flew to DC. We went to the White House. We toured around anonymously as much as we could, although they were spotted in every single city.
Just Americana.
We also went to North Carolina where we were filming and we met this sheriff who was showing us his guns.
Oh, sure is a big, heavy one, but it shoots a good load.
He didn't get an erection when he showed the guns, but...
I got an erection. But you said it, I remember you came up with that idea while we were there meeting that sheriff.
Wouldn't it be funny if he got an erection every
You
time
actually,
he
he actually, you know, just by, you know, we were there
he
for about
really
an
loved
hour.
his guns.
Pick it up, you put it down. You pick it up, you put it down.
I mean, it's not the subtlest idea, but...
You know, working with Matt and David, it's just wonderful seeing them getting into the character, because once they're into character, it's just automatic they're that character.
I ain't got to think gay all day. It's very hard for me.
The easiest part of it, in a way, was just introducing new characters, because they could just start from scratch.
I'm loving the new character of the grandmother.
Never knew people took drugs in them days.
Yeah, there's a lot you don't know. I still got me old crack pipe somewhere. Your Aunt Dorothy gave it to me for my 18th birthday.
My favorite character is probably Bing Gordon, the astronaut.
The Gym Buddies is incredible.
Mr. Doggy is hilarious.
At one point I was doing Mr. Doggy, wasn't I? And then it was just like, and Michael just said, oh, well, maybe David should try that.
Michael came up with a lot of suggestions. I mean, that doggy sketch, for example, you know, wasn't really going anywhere, but we had a good element to it.
It just came up as like, fairly spontaneously. Between us of like the dog saying something nasty back to her even though it was her voice, and then that turned into one sketch, and then one sketch turns into 2, turns into 3, and then the next minute you're in North Carolina naked in the trash.
Is this what you wanted? Why on earth would anyone want you to do that?
Ellie Grace, actually, there was a documentary I saw on TV a long time ago about women having an operation. Her daughter was saying goodbye to her before she went under, and they were going, I love you more than rainbows, I love you more than Disneyland, that kind of thing.
And at the end she said, you got me beat.
I love you more than Pink Blossom.
I love you more than...
Have I got you beat, Ellie Grace?
No, no.
That wouldn't be funny in itself, but we had to introduce this, you know, rude thing.
I love you more than double-headed dildos.
Ellie Grace.
It was harder with characters that had already been established because you want to introduce them to the audience, but at the same time an audience who's seen already, you know, 18 episodes of your show.
I love how Sebastian, who was the assistant to the Prime Minister of Britain, is now the British Prime Minister.
Sorry, Mr. President. I was looking for weapons of mass destruction. You could do some damage with that.
So you're doing Daffy, the only guy in the village. Is he still in a village? Or is he somewhere else? Or is he now an American character with similar traits?
Gay Society! Society for Gays!
Well, everyone loves Carol Beer. Computer says no, so of course I was hoping to see her.
My wife's about to have a baby.
Computer says no.
Matt and David are in everything, and they prefer to both be in everything.
They come up with a character, we discuss it with the actors, and then we go together and discuss what the look would be.
They're often wearing a lot of makeup or women's clothing or fake noses or fake teeth.
I think in the way that the characters look, if we have very, very definite ideas, we put them in the script, but otherwise we pretty much let them bring some ideas to us.
And the new things, like the gym buddies, for example, designed by Matthew Mungle, who's genius, it's come out brilliant.
How did you find going to the toilet in your gym buddies suit?
I found it tough, but not too bad. I didn't piss myself like you did.
When I did Bubbles, they built a funnel with a kind of pipe attached. But because the suit was so fat, it was very hard to kind of get it in the right place. I did 2 wheeze successfully, but the third one was unsuccessful.
The Bubbles costume weighs, half as much as Matt, probably, and he's trapped inside of it like a cocoon. Like, it's not like skin at all. And there's one scene where he's supposed to be laying down on a bed, and he's supposed to be laying, kind of like this. But it just so happened that the costume was so freaking heavy, like he couldn't hold his head up. So we're devising with pillows, taking 20 minutes between each take to wedge his body into position using pillows, so it doesn't look like he's like this, because he can't even do this because the suit's so heavy.
Incredibly talented guys. I mean, to think that they come up with this, they write it, and they actually perform it. It's been fascinating to watch, a lot of fun.
And recreate them.
Yeah. I think people, when they ask you about it, they think that you've met all these people and that they were just unlucky because they didn't. But actually, you have to kind of just use your mind and try and be creative.
For this next song, I normally invite a young lady to be with me on stage. So, would anybody like that? Do that?
Oh, me, I'm a lady.
Yes, you. Thank you.
Probably some of the best known guest stars that we have in this particular series are Sting and Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie-O.
It's like just Rosie. My agent wasn't really familiar with it. She said, you got a strange script and it's sort of mean. It's about like a Weight Watchers and they're making fun of you being gay and like, was it Little Britain? Is it the Fatty Fighters?
She was really game. We didn't have to, considering kind of how her character is assassinated, over these sort of 2.5 minutes.
I think that Rosie O'Donnell scene is one of the edgiest things we've ever written.
You're absolutely rude. You're homophobic, you're racist. You're meant to be helping these people, inspiring them, and you're making fun of their size. It's disgusting.
And licking another woman's vagina isn't.
I remember, we were writing, I came up with that line and Matt really laughed and I thought it was great. And we honestly kind of thought, well, we can't really say that.
Like, he was just, you see, what you do is when you write together, you say outrageous things just to make the other one laugh. I mean, you don't write them down. You know what I mean? You go, well, I was not saying that. I was like, no, that's going in. No, that's going in.
We have Robert Vaughn, Harry Lennox is playing president.
And I'm playing the French president.
Goodbye, Prime Minister.
Goodbye, Prime Minister.
Bitch.
But I was really happy because I get to play the First Lady.
Prime Minister, have you met Mrs. Steele?
She your mum?
Actually, casting was approached by a lot of people, the agents, saying they wanted to be in the show and they were willing to do whatever we had for them. We just didn't. We sort of said, hopefully for season 2.
Being behind the camera is completely different, but I think what I try to do first and foremost is make sure everyone's having a great time.
I love having a director that has been an actor before because he understands sometimes if the dialogue's not working for you, how he can get in there and find moments that maybe you didn't.
He was enthusiastic about the show and it's been a real pleasure working with him because he's very into sort of helping us as actors make it as good as possible.
He is a master at being able to detect what's funny and what is not.
He's very courteous. You know, if Mr. and Mrs. Schwimmer, the parents are watching, you've done a very good job.
Ready, and find a hole.
Man, that got to be 2.5 inches at least.
It really amazes me how well they can do an American accent because they talk very British. They're very, very proper when they speak.
We're not really American.
You wouldn't have known.
British.
We're British.
But then they can jump right into the American accent with no problem.
Incredible workout.
Incredible workout. So, you closed the deal with that girl last night?
Which one?
We try as we might. So we always think, oh, we've written too many characters who are women, we've written too many characters who are gay or whatever like that. But try as we might, it's very hard for us. Can't we do anything like about masculinity? But somehow it doesn't come very naturally to us, you know.
No.
Rita? Can we get a tissue?
Who makes a better lady? I think, obviously, sexually, David.
I'd love to look better as a woman. It's very hard for me to go through my life like this.
Matt makes a better lady because he has no hair, and David makes a sexy lady.
David Walliams is very good at playing a woman, whereas Marjorie Dawes is brilliant.
I'd have to say David enjoys it more. Sorry, David, you do.
I think Matt makes a better woman. I think David makes a better lady.
Matt is an awesome lady. I mean, Matt's ladies look like are very homey and like nice and like snuggly, and David's are sort of like you'd be sad if you ran into them in a dark alley.
Move!
It's just their own brand of comedy, just going over to the edge a little bit.
In the end, I'm pleased with the balance we got, which was between new characters who are largely American and established characters that were, of course, all British, and just sort of bringing them together and cutting between the two.
I would echo what David's just said, except I would have used the word predominantly instead of largely. But then I did go to private school.
This has been the making of Little Britain, USA. And you're welcome.